Welcome back to the podcast, Indestructible Souls. We want to thank you again for joining us on this Sunday, March 7th, 2021. Welcome back to the podcast, Indestructible Souls. We're going to continue with our part 2 on Fatherhood 101 for new and young fathers. But before we get into it, we are 30 days out from a very special launching of a group for African American men. And I want you guys to check this out. And this is Hearts of Men, Mental Wellness for African American Men, moving forward together. This will be a bi-weekly group via Zoom for African American men. We intend and will create a safe space for African American men for self-expression, to talk about the things that concern us on a daily basis, whether it be depression, whether it be stress, whether it be family, children, or whatever. So don't miss out. You can sign up on Eventbrite. And yet again, this is not a group therapy, although it will be therapeutic in nature. So once again, check it out. Please let people know that we are going to be here. The other thing is you can check me out at Beauregard Therapy. I am the proprietor and primary therapist for Beauregard Therapy. So check me out. You can contact me through Psychology Today. You can also contact me through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. So we're going to get into the show, and I want to thank everybody for joining. Thank everyone for the support. And this is going to be our show, Fatherhood Part 2, the introduction to fatherhood. So just to really recap that what we talked about last week is Fatherhood 101 for new and young fathers. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that young fathers understand in terms of what they will go through, and no one is exempt, the support you have and the education you have and your willingness to be a father is what's going to dictate a smoother transition. But we all go through a transition. And part of that transition is going from being selfish. And what I mean by being selfish, us being all young men, we want to take over the world. We want to do the things and set out and embark on the things that we choose to do. And we are in control of that. However, whenever fatherhood takes place and we begin to transition, we have to quickly realize it's no longer about us, just about us. And so we have to transition from being all about us, being selfish, to transition to being selfless, right? The other thing we talked about last week is examine your own upbringing. The reason why that's so important, is because oftentimes we experience things that affect how we will father, affect how we will be in relationships. And if we don't understand the things that we're going through, we're going to struggle, especially as fathers. One of the things I talked about last week, and I'll talk about quickly, is becoming a father will expose how you feel about yourself as a person, how you feel about yourself as a man, how you feel about yourself as a father. And so what happens is, real quick, I don't want to go too deep into it. If I don't examine how I was raised, the things I liked and didn't like, if I'm not intentional about being father, what's going to happen is these insecurities, if you will be exposed. And you will have a difficult transition in terms of becoming the father you want to be. The other thing I talked about was getting a mentor. If there's a family member, if there is someone that you respect that's a father, whoever it may be, whether you're reading some books, whatever you decide that is going to help feed your knowledge of becoming a father or being a good father, is to seek a mentor. The other thing is to that I talked about real quick is seeking knowledge, but seeking wisdom. Here's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. And one of the things that I have to say is I am grateful that some of the people that helped raise me, mother, grandmother, grandfather, that it wasn't always this way, but there was times that they used wisdom. And even though I was, off base or needed correcting, they used wisdom in how they addressed that, which made me better off and not worse off. Remember, we want to make sure that when we have to correct kids, that we leave them better off than what they were. Meaning, even though they make mistakes, even though they need correcting, the goal is for them to learn from it and grow from it and become better, not simple punishment that's going to tear them down. Right? So seek wisdom. Now, we see a lot of things. And for a lot of us men, real quick, for a lot of us men, we subscribe to this macho image of this macho thing of what fathers are supposed to be. And a lot of that stuff is not grounded in wisdom. And a lot of that stuff is not conducive to being an effective father. Right? Remember, the other thing I talked about is making sure that you see your kids. And what I mean by see them is not when you have one kid, but if you have multiple kids, but they begin to develop their own personality. And oftentimes, we as parents, and especially fathers, we try to force kids to be something that we want them to be or do the things that we want them to do. And so we don't see who our kids really are. And then we not only do we struggle as fathers, but our kids begin to struggle to develop. So that's a quick recap of what we talked about last week. And so this week, what I want to do is give you some concrete things to do as a young father and as a new father that's going to help you along the way. But don't forget, I talked about it last week, is establish a presence. Go from selfishness to selflessness. Examine your own upbringing, seek a mentor, and seek wisdom. So that's last week. So I'm going to get into this really quick. And once again, like I said, I really thank for those of you who continue to support Indestructible Souls as we begin to develop and so forth and so on. And I appreciate all of the feedback that I get. Now, for tonight's lesson, if you will, or show, I'm gonna give you 10 things that you can take away from that's gonna help put some things into your fatherly toolbox. One of the things I'm also gonna just kind of back up my statement with a couple of principles is because I always try to back up what I say. And oftentimes, a lot of us in this country, you know, we use the church or we use the Bible to basically guide how we parent. One of the things, or one of my criticisms of that, is a lot of parents use the Bible and use religion as a convenience to prove a point that doesn't make sense. But that's not about tonight's show. So let's get into it. So remember, this is Indestructible Souls, Mental Wellness for African American Men and Boys. And today is the Fatherhood 101 for Young and New Fathers, Part 2. So the first thing I want to talk about real quick. Like I said, there's going to be 10 things that we're going to get into. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on all of them because I want you to be able to share this with young fathers, share this with someone who's struggling as a father, and be honest and open about it. And then hopefully you'll learn some things, and you can take these with you. So if you're a young father, meaning, you know, less than 30, 35, or you're in your 20s and this is your first time and as a father, these are going to be some good things that you could put into your toolbox that'll help you along the way. So the first thing I want to talk about is real simple, real simple concepts. Fathers, if we're going to raise children and if we're going to raise boys that are emotionally literate, then we have to be that example. One of the things that a lot of fathers do, or a lot of fathers say, is they go to work, they make the money, they pay the bills, and then they do these things, and then that is their expression of love. I'm not saying anything wrong with that. But as often as you can, fathers, let your children know, let your kids know, verbally and through actions, that you love them. Here's why that's important. And the funny thing is that I even have to say that. A lot of times parents wonder why kids become disrespectful. Parents wonder why kids begin to disconnect. Here's the reason why. Parents sometimes forget to have relationships with their children. What does that mean? It's one thing to say that you love them. There's another thing to be engaged in their life. It's another thing to show interest in their life. It's another thing to have relationship and accept feedback and understanding from your kids. So it goes a little bit further than just telling them that you love them, but it's also building relationship. Anybody knows the best outcome for any type of relationship or behavior is the strength of the relationship. Fathers, establish a relationship with your children. Not just I'm the breadwinner, not just because I'm the father, do what I say. Have a relationship. Let your children know that you love them. Let's get into number 2. Set an example for other fathers. Now, what do I mean by that? Here's the thing. If I'm engaging with other fathers, if I'm seeking other fathers and I'm around other fathers, I don't care how old people are, sometimes we get our cues from other men around us. Here's what I'm saying. Be what you want to see in others. So in terms of being a good father, you have to then set examples for other fathers, especially fathers that are in your same age group. Here's what I mean by that. Someone in their early 20s that is just starting out with kids, whatever age they are, someone else who's showing that they are a respectful father, that they're a present father, that they're a loving father is more impactful the closer they are in age. So set example for other fathers. Here's a big one. Here's a very big one, especially in the day and age that you may or may not end up with your kid's mom. But especially if you're in the same household, this is especially important for men raising boys. Always find a way to show their mother respect. Here's what's going to happen, and here's what happens. If you show your mother respect, your son, your daughters will show your mother respect. If you show your mother respect, then your sons will learn to respect not only their mother, but respect other women. But if you respect their kid's mother, your daughters will learn and understand what it's like to be respected by other men. If you disrespect their mother, then daughters learn that it is okay for men to be disrespectful. And I mean that in a broad sense, even to the degree of abusive. Boys learn from their fathers. Here's the first biblical principle that I'm talking about. John 5:19 says, "So Jesus said unto them, Truly, truly, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. And whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise." If you disrespect women, if you disrespect their mother, guess what's going to happen? Moving on. Prepare them for the BS. Here's the thing. I often say, we are raising men, we're not raising boys. But what I see a lot of is that I see young teenagers, 15, 16, 17, 18, boys, and this is about fatherhood in general, that are not prepared for the real world. Now, I'm not trying to say that you teach them to be cynical, but what I am trying to tell you is that they have to understand what they're going to face in the world. They have to learn resiliency. They have to learn, guess what? Things are not fair. It's the way things is. It's the way things are. So we as fathers have to guide our sons, we have to guide our daughters and teach them about the world. I see so often that parents are too busy scrapping and scraping to find their own way in the world that they leave their kids behind and unequipped. So again, make sure you're teaching your kids or preparing your kids for the BS, fathers. Here's the next thing. Here's a big one. Here's a big one. Give them the courage to be different. For too long, we have subscribed to the same notion, and a lot of times people think that Black people are all the same. Give them the courage and give them the room to be different. All kids aren't going to be the same. Our kids aren't going to think the same. All kids and all of your children aren't going to share the same interest as you. And I can't tell you how many boys that I work with that struggle with their fathers because their fathers are trying to mold them into something that they want to be, and that's not who they are. Encourage creativity. Encourage them to be different. Encourage them to go against the grain. Don't encourage them to be a part of the crowd. Encourage them to be different. Allow them to find their own way. Allow them to explore new things. Here's the thing. Here's the next biblical principle. Colossians 3:21. Fathers, do not provoke your children lest they become discouraged. Here's what I'm talking about. Oftentimes, when we're trying to impose our beliefs, what we think, and how we see the world, fathers, we are discouraging our boys. We are discouraging our girls. So we have to be careful that we are allowing them and allowing room for self-exploration. Right? Here's another one. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. My hope is that you take these tools and put them into your fatherly toolbox. Here's the next one. Start thinking about their education now. Here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here in front. When my daughters were born, not only I thought about it, and everybody, tried to get that, that little Gerber thing that everybody tried to, pay for college fund and all this other stuff. But now as a pawpaw, I'm in a different financial situation. And so it is my duty as pawpaw is to make sure that we build an educational base for our grandson. But fathers, and I don't care what age you are, start thinking about your children's education now. Here's the thing, and I'll say it: baby showers, gender reveals, birthdays 1 through 5. Think about all of that money that you put into those things that could be going towards a college fund. I remember Janae's first birthday party. Man, we filled up trucks of toys. She don't remember none of that stuff. She got one of them Hot Wheel things that you ride on. She was too small for it. Ask her where it's at. Ask her, do she remember it? Here's the thing. A lot of times when we think about the stock market, we think about college funds, we think about all of these things, we believe that we got to have a lot of money to do it. No, we don't. What I'm suggesting is instead of putting your babies in Jordans and gold and a bunch of stuff that they're going to grow out of in days and whatever else, I'm suggesting, and talk to any financial advisor, start putting away $50 a month. Start putting away $100 a month. Start putting away $150 a month. And watch that grow. And by the time your kids are out of high school, they have a college fund. You can also begin to build their credit now. And by the time they graduate college, they can have A1 credit, a bank account, stocks. You can start now. There's and understand this. They have where you can start investing as little as $50 or whatever you can afford into mutual funds and stock market, and then the kids can take over it after they turn 18. It doesn't take a lot of money. Start having conversations now about generational wealth and financial responsibility. Start having those conversations now. Start thinking about your kids' education now. Don't wait until junior year or senior year and then scrounge trying to get scholarships. I'm not saying don't get the scholarships. I'm saying get them, but I'm saying start building that nest egg now. Here's one thing is, and I'll move on. Black people don't understand the economic power that we have. If Black people started saving their money, and I probably should do on exactly what, but if Black people start saving their money and stop spending, it would send this country into a recession because we spend so much of our money and we don't keep it. And so therefore, we don't realize our financial power. Start teaching saving, start teaching education now. Here's the next one. Teach children to start running their own business. I don't care what it is. It could be the old classic lemonade stand. Add a little twist to it. Go sell that stuff at the swap meet. I don't care where you sell it at. Teach kids to be business minded. I already did a show about welfare mentality. Our only conversation should not be graduate high school, go to work, graduate high school, go to college, graduate, our conversation should be about ownership. That starts as a child. Here's number 8. Teach them to live with purpose. What comes to mind is that oftentimes, our boys, our girls, our children have zero direction. A lot of times. I know we're better at things now, so I'm not going to say it's everybody, but we have to teach them to live with purpose. We are losing the fight simply because our kids, a lot of our kids, only see the here and now and don't envision the future, don't have a purpose. Help them figure that out now. It may change. And in fact, it should change. As they develop, that purpose will change. But teach them to live with purpose. Now, here we go, fathers. If you don't have purpose, how do you teach them to have purpose? Figure that one out. But we'll get there. Here's the other thing. Teach them the value of being a good person. Here's the thing. I know a lot of us been raised in the church, and living saved is hard. And sometimes living saved in a super religious church with a church sometimes become bigger than God, that's even harder. Fathers, just teach your kids to be good people. Keep their promises, keep their word, show up on time, say yes, sir, no, sir, thank you, no, thank you. Be good people. Not steal, so forth. Here's number 10. Give them plenty of time. Some of you may end up in situations where you got to get the courts involved, unfortunately. Hopefully that's not you. Some of us, we do got to go to work, all those things, but always spend time with your kids. Here's the thing. When we talk about having a relationship, kids are going to respond to people they respect, people they feel they can trust, people they have solid relationships with. That's why so often we lose our kids to the streets and to our friends, because they have relationship and we don't as parents. Build relationship with your kids. You don't always have to have on the hat of parent in the sense of your role is always the same, but how about just build relationship? Share interests, share time, spend time with each other, talk to each other, allow communication. So here's another biblical principle, real quick. As a father shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion to those who fear him. Here's the thing. How I interpret that is, as we as fathers, as we show compassion, we receive it. I'm going to leave that there. Here's a couple other things that I wanted to just add to it, especially as your children are older. Fathers, be upfront. Here's the thing. One of the things, and it's funny because I work with a lot of parents, and parents come in here thinking that they got these smoke screens up and their kids don't know. It's hilarious. Their kids already know. And what I mean by that, kids pay attention, kids watch, and a lot of times you're not fooling your kids. And then when you start to talk and the kids know you're full of it, because they see the behavior, they see what's going on. So therefore, then we break down the trust, then we break down the relationship. Here's what I'm saying. Be upfront. Be upfront with your kids. Tell them the truth. We don't always have to hide the truth from the children. Here's the other thing. We have to change the mindset. We cannot subscribe to old school mindsets. We have to develop with our children. And we have to have the conversations about sex, drugs, making mistakes, and all of those things. And we have to begin to open up communication. We have to be present, and we have to be truthful. Children will respect you for it, which means you will have stronger relationships. Understand this, fathers. Believe it or not, everything in your life, in your family, in your children ends and begins with you. What I mean by that, you set the stage, you set the tone. Even if you're in an estranged relationship, how you deal with that sets a true example and determines the outcome. This is about fathers, men, retaking the lead in raising kids and raising families. We can no longer be passive fathers and just think things are going to work out. So for you new fathers, you have to be intentional about how you raise your children. And keep in mind, and I'm going to say it again, this is no longer just about you. Seek a mentor, seek guidance, ask questions. If you don't know, say you don't know, and call somebody that does. And anybody who knows my family knows my daughters, they gave me a run for my money. We're good now, but they made me earn that title, Daddy. Trust that. And now I'm Pawpaw. Proud of that too. So I hope this has been helpful for you new fathers and you young fathers. And please take this information, write it down, jot it down. Even if you're not a father yet and you intend to be a father someday, this is good news for you. And for those of you who have close relationships with fathers who are struggling, hopefully this is good information for them. So, yet again, this has been Indestructible Souls. And you can always see me or the show on Sundays at 7 o'clock. And a couple of other things that's coming up that I want to make sure that you know about, please promote it, is the men's group, Hearts of Men, mental wellness group for African-American men moving forward together. It is impossible to heal in isolation. Hearts of Men is a safe space for African-American men to create community and discuss the concerns that affect us on a daily basis. You can email me directly at heartsofmen@beauregardtherapy.com. You can also go register at Eventbrite, but please share the good news. Please share the information. And then also, Beauregard Therapy. I'm located in Colton, California. And if you're interested in seeking some help for yourself, for your family, couples, individuals, and I do want to say this because I've talked about this before, is I am starting to receive a lot more Black men coming to therapy, and I'm happy about that. So once again, this has been Indestructible Souls. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and meet again next week.